Well, good evening and welcome. It is time to talk on this Wednesday night, and I'm excited tonight for all of those who are connecting with us online. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for taking another evening to connect with us here at Siloam Sandton. I am really excited because I am joined by two guests tonight, so I am most certainly not alone. I have good company, I have great company, I have fun company, and I have company that we can learn a lot from tonight as we speak on the subject of how do leaders build trust. So if you're in a space where you have a team of people around you, you know that you want to win trust from your teams so that you can be united and you can fulfill whatever the great vision is that's on your mind and in your heart and for your organization, wherever it is that you lead. So I'm going to ask my guests to come in and join us tonight before they say good evening. I am a thorn amongst roses, as the old adage would say. And first off, I have my wife joining us tonight. That's Pearline. And then I have Nompumelelo, who is connecting with us this evening as well. How fantastic to have them in conversation with me tonight. So Pearl, you want to go ahead? Just give a shout out and say hello to the folks.
Yeah, well, so good to join you, Renal, on this platform tonight. We've been thoroughly enjoying just all the incredible guests you've had and just the amazing talks. And I know that it's really been empowering. So very excited to sit beside you to just chat to a very special lady tonight. Looking forward to our time together.
Nompumelelo, or Pumi, as we do call her as well. Go ahead and just greet everybody, give a shout out, and I'll have them shout right back at us. If you're on Facebook or YouTube tonight, let us know that you are there connecting, and we know that you're going to look forward to the conversation tonight. Pumi, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. As introduced, I'm Nompumelelo Mgo. It is a great pleasure and a privilege to be with you tonight. Am I still on? Sure. I lost my screen. It is a pleasure and a privilege to be on tonight, and also just the opportunity to be able to talk to all of you. Thanks for the invite to you, Pastor Renaud.
You're most welcome. And I see Basil is with us. I do see Chantel. I know there's a few more folks that are hiding there behind the screen. So give us a wave, give us a shout out. As always, if you have any questions on the subject or any questions that you would like to share with us or ask us as you hear the conversation tonight, please go ahead, drop that in the comment section, and we'll pick that up and see how best we can respond to you. But before we go to the questions of the audience, ladies, I want to say welcome tonight. And the way that we kick this off is to introduce the people to you, or introduce you to the people. But everybody's able to see your name, of course. So it's not just about your name tonight. It is about us getting to know a little bit about you. Let me just test audio here. Pumi, are we good on your side? Are you able to hear me? All right, we're gonna have to Pumi's audio sorted on her side and see how we can do that quickly. But while we do that, let me go ahead and say to Paul, this is how it works tonight while Pumi is getting sorted out on her side there. I have a list of 12 questions in front of me. And what you need to do is pick a number from numbers 1 through to 12. Pick any number. And the number that you pick is the question that I will pose to you. And that's the question you need to answer for tonight.
Well, I hope you're not going to take advantage that we're on live stream and ask me some strange questions, but I'll go with number 3.
Okay, question number 3. Question number 3 is, are you a reader? I obviously know the answer to this. And what is your favorite or most recent read?
Oh my gosh, anybody knows me knows I have like a pack of books at any time that I'm reading. So yes, I'm absolutely a reader. I love to devour books, and I'm a little bit old-fashioned that I really love, paper books itself. So yeah, I'm reading two books at the moment. The one is an autobiography, and I've just started Pastor Lindy's book. She blessed me with a beautiful book on Sunday, which is actually just a collection of her sermons. So I do thoroughly enjoy reading some fiction, some autobiographies, and then some spiritual. You got to get the spiritual in there,
Fantastic. Okay, then there's question. You get to choose a second question, and then Pumi will get to select 2 questions herself. So you've picked number 3 already. So questions 1 through 12, any number except number 3.
8.
Question number 8. What is your favorite movie?
I gotta say Legends of the Fall. It's very old, one of my all-time favorites. It's got to be Legends of the Fall. And to be honest, any Avengers movie, I'm a sucker for those ones.
Okay, awesome. I hope that has introduced you a little bit better to our audience online tonight. So I see I've got a greet from Kanyisile, who one of you ladies know, and it's a huge hello, a few dancing feet, and a lot of hearts, and a big shout out that says, that is my sister. So I'm guessing that is for you, Mpumelelo. How about that for an awesome welcome tonight? So Mpumelelo,
welcome.
That is a great welcome. So in case you missed it, the way that we kick this off to introduce you to our online audience is I have a list of questions, and from the list of questions, you get to select 2 tonight. The way that you select that question is choosing any number from numbers 1 through to 12. Pearl has already selected number 3 and number 8. So you have all the other numbers from 1 to 12 to choose from.
Number 7.
Number 7, your question is, what has been the highlight of your week thus far?
Sure, the highlight of my week, that's actually a difficult question. I'll tell you what the highlight of my weekend rather. So over the weekend, my husband and I and a few couples went out to a game reserve. And in the afternoon, we happened to go for a great game drive. And I'll call him our ranger, the guy was guiding us, a tour guide. He parked at a particular spot. And where we were parked, there were like 4 elephants that they were eating and just kind of approaching. In the next 10 to 15 minutes, 16 elephants actually walked past us on either side of the car. It was absolutely amazing. I remember even the big bull actually passed by us, and we all had to keep quiet because he looked at, so my cousin and I were sitting next to each other, and he looked into the car, looked at her, and then he walked past. It was, you know, when you have one of those moments where you're thinking, Lord, how amazing is your creation? It was that. We're at the perfect spot at the perfect time. And people that have been there a couple of times have never seen what we saw. And we were just there at a random day. So that was, for me, the highlight of my week.
Okay, watch us all just absolutely green with envy right now. I've got to say that one of Cairo's favorite animals is the elephant. I mean, nothing can compare. So just jaw dropping right now. That is absolutely incredible. That's not just a highlight. That's like a mega light right there.
It was
Fantastic experience.
Mega highlight. Mega highlight.
And yeah, I was going to say that the correct response to that question was, this is the highlight to your week, that you get to have a conversation with us. But never mind, I will give it to you.
You understand, right?
Absolutely. Let's pick one more. So questions 3, 7, and 8 have been selected. 3, 7, and 8 has been selected. 11. So 11. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If you get to be the most powerful world leader for a day, what would you change in the world?
If I get to be
the most powerful world leader for a day, what would you change in the world?
You're asking me such powerful questions right now. So one of my dreams as a person when I was growing up, I always used to say, I want to be in the history book. I don't want to be Mandela. I don't want to be Barack. But I always used to say, I want to be in the history book for a moment in time to influence change. So going back to your question, if I was a powerful world leader today, what would I want to influence? I want to definitely influence change. When I say change, what do I mean? It's been centuries since the world has been alive, people have been alive, but we still are struggling with equality and in accepting diversity. I definitely believe that as a human race, we're at a point where we are meant to be past those differences and are meant to accept the fact that our differences make us better. Our differences make us operate and fare better in the world. And I want to be part of that journey, part of that influence, part of a moment in time to see that pivot happening for all of us.
Wow. Definitely well thought. I love the way you were so immersed in that right now and just brought that out to us. So I'm going to ask Pearl, I know we have tons of questions for you this evening because we really want to learn just from the leadership experience that you've had thus far. And before I have Pearl just raise one of her questions for you this evening, Brendine, aka Brenda Tongsijake, I think I've said that right, says hi and keep on inspiring us. That's the message from her. Welcome to you online tonight. Thank you to Pastor Adrian Jacobs for joining us tonight. Paul, any questions you want to raise for Nampumelelo tonight?
Absolutely. So I think we started with seemingly light questions, but you've already dropped such powerful comments and statements there. There's so much that we could actually just draw out from there. But I love that you spoke about, so much change has happened. And I think if we look in the context of our country, South Africa, and Africa at large, but South Africa, so much change has happened over the years. It may have been at certain spaces. And maybe in the space of the mind, we've been able to get that right. But in a lot of in what that actually means in everyday, how it plays out, we're not caught up to that space yet. And so people may think that we're in a very reformed society, and we're not. We're seeing it every day. So certainly, and I have to say, you being, it may sound stereotypical, but female, young, Black CEO of a dynamic organization is certainly something that's pretty wow and pretty unusual and different. So I think if I could ask, what has been your experience in leadership, given your makeup, given your history, your background, and understanding the context of here in our South African climate? What has been your experience in leadership so far?
Sure. That's a very interesting question, Pearl. And I'll try answer it in 3 parts. When I think about the South African context, firstly, we've got a very tough history, right? Coming from apartheid, coming from poverty. Interesting part, I was involved in a conversation with some of my Kenyan colleagues a month ago. And I happened to be in a group where most of us were Black and leaders. What I find quite intriguing is that our stories were similar. We were from poor backgrounds. We had to fight through adversity to make a difference and to be where we are as leaders. And it was very telling for me in terms of all of us, different countries, Black, but poverty was a constant. Coming back to South Africa, that's been a big thing for me in terms of when I look at my life, born in Soweto, born during the apartheid time, born at a time where we didn't know where we were going to end, and then we went into democracy and we are here today. And I compare myself, my parents, and the youth of today and what they're growing up with. The youth of today have a plethora of choices, but at the same time, they're growing up in a time where there's high unemployment rate. And that tells you a thing or two about how do we need to reshape and reframe our economy, and just how we will be relevant in the future as South Africa and our youth. The second point I'd say is our infrastructure end to end. I mean, all of us, some of us are going through stage 4 load shedding as we speak. It's 2021, yet we still have challenges with infrastructure in Africa and South Africa. I mean, we all saw it with COVID, where some children could not go to school and they could not even access online learning just by virtue of not having access to the right infrastructure and right facilities. The third point for me is the fact that our economy has not been stable. You know, we had a time where we seemingly were thriving, but we constantly get back to the regression and just lack of change. And that for me has been an issue in terms of, I mean, we've got talent in this country. If I look at just as my company, being a global company, how I see the brain drainage from South Africa to other countries, I think we've got something so special that we underestimate, we undermine in our talent and in our people. Another part that I would also put in terms of the climate that we find ourselves in is the political, I'll call it misheval right now, or political misalignment, because at one point you've got democracy and several parties. At another point you've got fractions. Then you've got corruption. Then you've just got, I ask myself the question of, when we look at democracy, are we not at a point at a time where we need to really rethink and say, what does it look like for future generations? And then I take myself then as a leader amongst other fellow leaders. I think it's a very difficult time to be a leader because we're faced with so much uncertainty. And at the same time, we're actually marveling as friends at one point in time in terms of, if we look at ourselves as South Africans, we've actually been in constant change. Be it a political system change, be it technology change, be it transfer of wealth and change. We've been in constant change, but we've never been through this type of change, where we are really all going through a framing of what our next normal is. And we are still stuck in the old normal. We want to get back to some sort of stability that looks like what we all know and understand. But where the world is going, the world is saying there is a different normal, there's a next normal. And I find myself as a leader struggling with that. I oscillate between, every time when I'm asked, how am I doing? How am I coping? I always say, it's either it's exciting or it's challenging, because it depends on what's going on in that particular week. If I was just to frame it in that way, that's how I'm seeing myself as a leader, young, Black, female. And sometimes I think what we forget, I was saying it a lot this year, I realized that when I took over a new role, it was exciting. It was a new opportunity, once in a lifetime, and all of that. But what I also realized that whenever you are called to leadership, you're called to influence, you're called to responsibility, and you're called to change. In my role, I'm really running with a lot of change. I really want to make a difference. I come with a different mandate in terms of who I am, what I believe in, and what I need to influence. And one of the things that our CEO once said to me, he said to me, "Pumelelo, I know that equity is important to you. Black empowerment is important to you, but as soon as you become a leader, you're not a leader of only Black people or females or what, you're a leader of everybody in the business. How will you make that environment, for everybody to feel like they belong, despite not looking and sounding like you?" And I do think that's part of the challenge around how do we make a difference. It's beyond ourselves, it's beyond our beliefs. It's about a different level of operation.
Sure, that's incredible. There's so much, again, nuggets that I could pull out of there, but what I could maybe build onto that from there. So we're talking tonight about leadership, but in particular, because when we lead, we cannot lead if we don't have teams that we're leading, right? And on a common vision for objectives and so on. So given this, you've spoken specific about this time of instability, standing on the cusp of where we need to be moving forward, and an immense amount of change that needs to be managed and navigated in this time. So just in your view, be it in the corporate space, be it in the entrepreneurial space where you're leading that kind of team, or even in the church space, for example, what kind of leader do you think people are seeking or needing? I think every era needs a certain type of leader or leaders. Every era or immense time of change, we look throughout history, secular world or in the church, needs a particular type of leader. At certain points, it needs a leader who's an activist. At certain points, it needs a leader who's sort of pulling you forward, and a whole lot of other things. So what kind of leader are you experiencing and seeing that people are really seeking and needing to be able to shift forward from where we're at?
If it was to reflect a bit on that, given what I'm seeing and what I'm talking to other leaders about, in corporate right now, there is a need for an empathetic leader. A leader that is willing to be transparent, a leader that's willing to be genuine about what's happening in life, end to end. At the same time, the stability is also quite key. People are seeking some sort of escape where they feel safe. Be it safe because they know what they're doing, they know that their job, for example, is secure. We've seen a lot of retrenchments, for example. So people are seeking a place where they feel that if I'm investing here, I want to know that I'm secure. I want to have job security. And also there is this whole wellness aspect that's becoming more and more prevalent, be it mental wellness or just wellness end to end, where our people are seeking a place of saying, I feel burnt out. I'm working in my home from 7 in the morning until 9 p.m. every day? Can you see me? Do you know that I'm burning out? And at the same time, they want to be able to come to the office and still feel like it's the same place. So it's a very difficult time to lead, I must say. Not only am I focusing on what the shareholder wants me to focus on from a performance perspective, but also there's an element where you need to give assurance to people in all those areas: wellness, job security, all of those things, despite being in a hard economy. It's a different way of leading, I must say, because you're also going through your own personal things that you have to deal with and get over.
Wow, brilliant response right there. I absolutely love what you have had to share with us tonight. I do want us to get to the crux of some of our conversation that we want to hit, but I'm going to go back and pick up just on one point that you raised. Before I do, Bongiwe Mabidela says my mentor is here, and Palesa Sijaka is on as well, connected to us on YouTube. Thank you guys for joining tonight. So you made a statement earlier that included the words called to leadership. I want to ask you, Nomvumelelo, how did this become part of your life, a call to leadership? How does a leader know when they are called to leadership? And for you personally, when did you know that you were called to be a leader? Not just an employee in an organization, but somebody at the top of the ladder, someone in a space of influence, as you say. How did you know you were called? Because I'm sure that you were not always in this, environment exposed to the things that you are now. And you've mentioned some of our history in the nation as well. So obviously that was the context of your growing up. How does an individual growing up in that environment think to herself, I want to grow up and be somebody of influence someday? How does that call hit you? How did you know that?
Whew. That is a very difficult question. Whenever I sit and reflect, first thing that I know is that I didn't do anything special to be where I am today. I do believe a big part of my journey and my success is the Lord's favor. My cousin, Palesa, as she's on, she always says to me, God is showing off with you, because I've had the dreams of being a leader. I've had the dreams of being in business. But never did I dream or never did I imagine where I would be and how God would actually make it manifest. If I look at what you're saying about calling, whenever I'm in an environment, I believe that God puts you wherever you are, in your workplace, at your home, wherever, for a purpose. So when I joined my current company, I remember saying to the CEO, I believe that I'm here to fulfill something. I don't know it yet, but I'm sold for the vision of the company and what we're trying to achieve. And I always say, in every position that I'm in, whether I'm a manager, whether I'm an employee, I always believe that my contribution, no matter how big, no matter how small, is important. And I always ask the leaders that I work with on, how do you want me to help your vision? How do you want me to contribute to your vision in my role? So I suppose if going back to your question of how did I know I was called for leadership, I can never say I knew. I think throughout my life, when I assess my life journey, I've had moments where I just find myself leading. I've had moments where I just find myself being assertive, wanting to make a difference. But again, the drive behind all of it has been purpose. What is my why? Why am I doing it? What do I want to achieve? How do I want to impact others? How do I want to empower and influence others? That's always been my why. If I look at just being in high school, when I was a choir chair, I just wanted us to sing songs properly. That's all I wanted. I was like, guys, can we just sing properly? Can we just be the best? That's what it was my small little aim, And then I was a service chair. In the service chair, I wanted all of us to understand that when we're serving people, how do we contribute to their lives and do it excellently? That's all I wanted. So I think in every area, I always was driven by the purpose. Why are we doing what we're doing? And how do we become the best at it? And that landed me in leadership by virtue of the why pulled me to it.
Sounds like a beautiful story. You mentioned Palesa. Palesa's statement simply says, since childhood. Since childhood. So I think the hint is that those in your family have experienced this leadership thing with some great extent. Let's just leave it at that. Now, Pumalelo, we chatted earlier, and you shared a lot about the climate of the country. What I want to shift that a little bit to now is the climate of the business space, your work environment. When you shifted into this leadership role in your corporate space, what was the climate that you inherited? Because it's really great, and you made the news when you were promoted into your current role, and people were applauding and loving it. And looking from the outside, it's obviously a great move. But I imagine that it comes with some sense of tension, some challenges. What was the climate that you inherited as a leader that the people looking from the outside would not necessarily see? What was happening in that space? And we, of course, don't want to let anybody down here, right? But we just want to understand a leader's world. That's what we're trying to get perspective of.
So, I always say that when I took the role, it was as if I was at reception, and there were flowers, there were chocolates, it was music, it was lovely. That first 2 weeks was lovely. And then I went beyond reception and realized that, shucks, there's a lot to do here. If I look at what I inherited in the business, we had gone through a massive change. And Bongiwe, you would know because you were part of the conversation. We went through a massive change as a business where we consolidated 5 businesses or 5 brands into one in 2020. And we went through a massive 189 process in 2020. So when I was appointed, it was 8 months later. And if I look at the environment and our people, they were still healing from the change, and they were still trying to recover. They were still trying to catch up with the change. We had new leadership from our global company to the Middle East Africa space. If I look at myself, my CEO, Verena, as well as our global CEO, Abhijit, we were all appointed on the 1st of April. All of us, the 3 of us. On one end, global CEOs bringing in a new strategy, new leadership. Verena's taking it, bringing it down to me. I'm also new and going, oh my word. And one of the things that helped me, I read the book, The First 90 Days. And the STARS model was quite critical for me, because when you dissect the business and try to understand a massive business, it's not just that you're turning around or you're accelerating or you're growing. There were components where part of them I'm fixing a business, part of it I'm growing, part of it I'm investing, part of it I'm accelerating. And that for me was the first layer. Second layer was the people side of things. Where are people? Because we had merged into this big business, cultures were different. And also we were going through a change during COVID. So people are sitting at home, they don't know the new leadership. They don't know the new culture. Cultures are morphing and changing. Our clients are going through a rework, reimagining, rethinking their operating models. I look at the technology space that we are in. Not only was the industry end-to-end thriving, but you had new players from everywhere. I mean, if I look at myself, there were areas before 2020 where there were South African players only playing there and we were competing with each other. Now I've got competitors from the APAC region, from the US, from Australia, also clamoring for my same clients. The other fifth one is the talent part. Because we had key niche talent in South Africa, we were able to contain. But now what we're finding is that people can work from anywhere. So you're finding companies from the US, from APAC, from Europe, poaching our people as we sit, So for me, that's what I inherited, an evolving company. And not only was it evolving itself, even I was bringing my own evolution, So how do for me, my question that I had to ask myself is, how do I ensure that as I'm evolving, as we are all evolving, we still are able to meet our targets? We still are able to service our clients. We still are able to stay relevant. And for me, those are the questions that keep on moving. And if you remember, July, we had the social unrest. When that happened as well, I froze. I remember I said to myself, I have no idea how to deal with an unrest. I have no idea how to even respond and say, guys, it'll be okay, because I don't know if it's going to be okay. So I've had those moments where sometimes I completely freeze, but what I'm blessed to have is that I have a very strong leadership team. I've got a strong leadership team above me in my exco and the guys that report to me. And that's helped me balance throughout this whole process.
Wow, Mpumi. Yeah, I don't know how you navigated. It's incredible, really. When you talk about it, it almost sounds impossible, but it actually goes to show people have an amazing amount of resilience, isn't it? And when whatever needs to come to the fore for what is needed at that time, true leaders will find it within themselves, isn't it? They'll find what needs to come to the fore, absolutely, because you understand what's at risk. At risk is not simply a job you're trying to perform, but it's about trying to achieve goals and objectives. I think that could lead us to the next question. I spoke a little bit about teams, and you touched on that just now as well, just about the incredible change that people have had to work through in the last year, last year and this year as well. And so a huge word I think that's needed, and I'd pose a question to you, is how important do you think trust is when we're talking about leadership, when we're talking about teams, when we're talking about leading dynamic in dynamic spaces to achieve dynamic things? Is trust critical, and how does a leader truly work with a team to win their trust, if that is what's needed, to be able to navigate through that and set a course?
Sure. Trust is utmost. It's of utmost important. If I look at just a practical example from my side. So a couple of months ago, we were talking as a team, and I sat back and I watched, and I realized that whenever we have critical discussions, it almost feels as if we, for lack of a better term, we go around and issue a couple of times before understanding it together, deciding on what to do and acting. And for me, it was a gap in trust, because it means that before we can accept that we're all coming from a good place, we go around this block of discussing, questioning. It's good to debate, man, if it comes from a good place, we're trying to achieve something. But if I'm asking for asking's reason, for no reason whatsoever, it just becomes frustrating. So I said to the team, I actually asked, there was a team of coaches that I engaged who helped us with vulnerability training. So we went through the Dare to Lead program that Brene Brown actually leads. And we did vulnerability, just understanding, that vulnerability is courage. Vulnerability creates trust. Vulnerability also helps us to create the right borders in terms of how do we communicate and how do we connect as people. It helped us with interconnectedness. I mean, I remember the last part of the day when we did that coaching was on our life journeys. And I can't, Pauline, the one thing for me that blew me away was the fact that when each person shared their story, it was about overcoming adversity. It was about, and it didn't matter about the race. I mean, that's what for me struck me. Sometimes you associate adversity to color and to background. I found that each of my team members had had some adversity in their lives that shaped who they are, that shaped how they think, that shaped how they lead. And we had to go through this journey together, understand each other, understand that when I say I need your help, or when I say we will not do this, where am I coming from? Why am I saying that? Why do I believe that's the right thing to do? But also when someone questions me, I need to also accept the fact that I can take other views. I can be vulnerable enough, or I can be trusting enough to accept the challenge and the conflict because it comes from a good place. But we had to go through that process. I mean, I remember one of my team members actually said in their 12 years in the company, they'd never gone through such a training where we went back to basics about our humanity. And for me, it shifted us from where we were to where we are right now, because now we can talk, we can argue, we can have intelligent conversations around why we're doing a particular thing. And I can trust that although my team is questioning me, they're not undermining me. They really want for the bigger purpose of the company.
I love that you used the word humanity. I actually wrote that down here from what you shared. I said, from what you shared, what I'm hearing you say is trust. Actually, it helps you, it transcends so much past race and culture and background and gender disparities and all of those. But it actually helps you find humanity. And then when you work from that space, I think what you can achieve is really quite limitless, right? So maybe if I could pose flip side of that, because I think it's interesting and it's important for us as leaders in spaces to understand the impact of our actions when we're on the right track, but also when we're on the wrong track. What do you sort of see as a potential impact of the opposite of that? Because in the past year, I've spoken to so many people who have been on that receiving end of the Section 189s, or operating in spaces where managers and leaders didn't know how to adjust to the change and operate in this new way, which needs an enormous amount of trust. So what is the impact of that on leadership and on teams when leaders can't work in that manner?
Sure. If I was to say it plainly, I do think that the first thing that happens is that we stagnate because we don't ask the right questions. We're not brave enough to say, no, we're going in the wrong direction. We make a lot of mistakes as a leadership team. We don't reflect enough to say, you know what, shucks, I'm actually destroying the business here. Another part that I see, it's the groupthink, where when we are together, we are unable to have honest conversations. And when I say, are we aligned? Everybody says, yes, we're aligned, but back at the ranch, we're not. If I look at us, what was happening last year, before we had these connected conversations, sometimes we'd be sitting in a board meeting and having confidential conversations. And suddenly you see it in the media, like, ne? Or we discuss something that we're supposed to think about, mull over, and then you find that now this thing that we talked about, we're not even at a point where we've completely formulated it, but it's now in the corridors. I've seen the shift now, because when we say, guys, this is confidential, we're still thinking. we're still shaping this for the business. The bigger purpose here is for the business. I find that now everybody understands that. Whereas before, it was almost as if we're together, we agree on something. You open the door, people leave and they didn't agree. But they couldn't tell you that I don't agree. It destroys a company. It destroys a culture. It stagnates growth. And also it creates problems. Because even as a leader, I can't trust that the people are doing the right things, which means that I get stuck in small stuff as opposed to looking at the big rocks.
Wow, that's amazing. I think what I've picked up from there as well, Mpumi, is that though good leadership, good, strong, required leadership in this time, and acting as a leader who's ethical, who can be trusted and who can trust your team, it takes an incredible amount of hard work. It's not easy. It's a lot to carry. It's a lot to run with. However, the output and the outcome of that far outweighs the impact of bad leadership, which is pretty easy to do, isn't it? To lead badly is pretty easy to do. The impact of that is so much less than the benefits of good leadership.
But I must say that I don't believe anybody goes out not wanting to be a great leader or good leader. And I must say, I said to myself at the beginning that I know I'm going to make mistakes. Sometimes I'm going to make big and bad mistakes. What will help me is acknowledging that I've made the mistake, being able to humble myself and apologize and say, guys, I made a mistake. I did not do this right. Please help me. And that's what I've found is the difference, that you can make the wrong decisions, but as long as you're able to identify it, humble yourself, apologize, bring your team in the journey, let them help you. I mean, I struggle because I'm a control freak by nature. So I struggle with it myself. Sometimes I have to say, okay, guys, I can see I was wrong. Please help me. So it happens to all of us. Sometimes you just make the wrong decision because you're also under pressure. And the one other thing I didn't say that about business, one of my mentors taught me the fact that, when you're running a business, it's not only about you. It's not only about your clients. It's about the families that you feed. Whenever your employee is there, it's them and their family. When the reason that they're there, the reason that they're spending hours, they're doing it for the livelihood of their family. As soon as you forget that part and you forget the fact that their driving purpose is to the well-being of their own family, we missed it. We missed that boat.
That's deep.
Absolutely. And let me say thank you, Nompumelelo, because the question on trust, just the manner in which you handled that and presented a response tonight was so valuable. And I really see so much in the conversation, that word humanity that Pearl was talking about certainly does flow through. And really teaches us a lot about how leadership has changed and certainly is required to be different in the current environment. And I'm absolutely sure that humanity is certainly comes from that foundation of your spirituality that you have as well. Now, I'm going to take a short left here because we have some fan mail to share. And then I have a question to come back to, which is not from either of us, but actually from someone who's connecting online tonight. So the first message that I'm reading out to you is from Charles Ngwenya. Nompumelelo can let us in on who that is, but he just shared with us, and thank you, Charles, for sharing this. Just a message that he sent through that says, Nompumelelo, when she grew up schooling at Parktown Girls, she used to show a lot of positiveness. And so certainly showing us here the kind of attitude. And even though maybe you didn't feel like you were called to be a leader back then, but everybody else around you was definitely seeing it at the time.
Oh, thank you. That's actually my father.
Wow. Okay. What a privilege. What a privilege. I would have guessed that was a teacher, but he shares it so well. Thank you so much. That was a privilege. Now I'm going to throw you a question that comes in from Facebook tonight. It's Brenda that's asking. It has been reported a lot of employees are experiencing burnout, especially women. What kind of initiatives can leaders put in place to raise awareness on mental health? How do they ensure that people are not stigmatized? I know Pearl would love to jump on this question as well. So the two of you can just go ahead and field this.
I actually have a testimony on that specific one. So last week we did so what we started doing, we have what we call a Wellness Wednesday, where we bring in experts and speakers to talk about topics, different topics. So last week we had a wellness week. So wellness week, we had yoga, we had Tai Chi, we had nutritionists, we had wine tasting. We had a lot of things happening on wellness week. And one of the things that we had was a doctor on mental wellness who came through and spoke to our employees. So the testimony here is that one of the people that was listening, one of the employees that was listening, took what she learned from the session and shared it with her siblings, only to find out that her niece was actually planning to commit suicide that day. By virtue of listening and hearing what was prescribed as, or what was shared as signs of depression, or signs of being mentally unwell, when they shared that with that sister and she saw it in her daughter, they were able to immediately take her and get treatment. And the testimony that came back was, just by listening and being in that session, it saved a life. So we should never underestimate the importance of mental wellness, never underestimate the fact that people that have been working at home for the last 20 months are in burnout. Some of them wake up in pajamas from 6 a.m., go to bed at 11 a.m., and they've just been working. And some of them don't even know what they've been doing for the last 2 months because they've just been in the same track and running. And that's why I encourage our employees to sometimes just come to the office. Even if you're coming to see us and have coffee, just get out of just breathe, get out of that normal environment. So it's Brenda, it's a very, very important subject. And I think this COVID situation that we're in has elevated its importance.
I'm going to toss that over to Pearl as well. I know that she does some work in the mental wellness space. So any thoughts you have to share with us on that?
I think Mpumi really covered a lot of it, but I think if I could respond to Brenna's question in terms of the kind of initiatives, I think what Mpumi said, the key factor, though we're hearing mental wellness almost become buzzwords now, but it's still very much an unknown in a lot of spaces. People are quite happy, even companies, for example, to have days and so on, but they don't want to face it. So when your manager has to face it in your team, they don't quite know how to deal with it. So the two things I would say to companies, number one is create spaces where people feel safe to talk about it. And women in particular, you're absolutely right, Mpumi, we underestimate the impact of burnout and the constant working. And women in particular, where there's families and when there's other things, there's an incredible amount of guilt. And that's leading to these depressive states that we're seeing. So I think we need to be able to create safe spaces where people can say, I'm tired, I don't know what to do, I'm stuck, I need some help. And give them the space to be able to take care of me. And so that is the other side I would say to people, if somebody is struggling with that and listening in, or in a space where they know of somebody and they want to help, is to be able to allow people to take care of me. Whereas now the focus has been on, I just have to achieve, I just have to be able to complete tasks, I just have to do this. If I don't, I drop the ball here. If I do that, I drop the ball at home. So you're sort of stuck in the middle of that. And so taking care of me first is absolutely important, and creating those safe spaces.
Brilliant. Thank you to the two of you for just sharing that with us, and an amazing testimony right there as well, Nompumelelo. I must say though, first time I've heard of wine testing for wellness. I don't know. That's something, I'm going to have to research a little bit right there. I'm guessing it went pretty well though. I'm guessing it went pretty well, but thanks
I'll
for sharing.
test it for you.
Thanks for sharing that.
It went absolutely brilliantly. It was very epic. I mean, I saw people that had never been on campus over the last 12 months, 20 months. Some of them actually called me the lady on the screen because they'd never met me. So it was good to actually see and meet everybody.
Fantastic. Well, we're getting a response online from Palesa as well, just talking on the issue of just mental health and wellness and just, businesses supporting their employees around this issue of burnout. So we're probably going to have to do a conversation one of these evenings just on that subject, I think, although I only have a few weeks left for the year and that's been booked up, but we're going to see if we can squeeze that conversation in. What I'm going to do is just highlight a few points from our conversation tonight, and in the meantime Paul can reflect on some of that as well, and then we'll wrap up by having Nompumelelo share any final thoughts she wants to leave with those who are connected with us online tonight. So from my side to everybody that's connected online, some great thoughts in a very in-depth conversation that I think we've had tonight. The first point that really caught me and just struck a chord was when Nompumelelo spoke about being called to leadership. And I think that when you know that you are called to that leadership space, it really does show up in your life as a call, and a call to leadership is something that may ask of you to walk a very sacrificial journey by being focused and making the right choices. That sometimes is not the nice choice, it's not the comfortable choice, but most certainly will be the right choice for you on your path to leadership. But something very interesting I picked up from Nompumelo's life as well is she may not necessarily have noticed that call to leadership, but the many people around her who have shared their thoughts and insights on her earlier and younger life certainly saw it in her. So that's, just a message to us that's online tonight as well. The call to leadership may present itself in your life, but you may not necessarily be able to see it. But others around you who are speaking to that, they see something in you. So we'd encourage you tonight, rise up to the call and don't be afraid of it. Another brilliant question that I think Pearl brought in tonight was what type of leader is required in this moment, in this season and time period that we are in. And Nompumelo's response was the empathetic leader. We need empathetic leadership. We need leaders who can be real. And I loved the way she presented that to us. Wellness is something that is needed by our people, and I know several of you online are agreeing with us on that one tonight. I just picked up the title of a book, and so let's all just go and Google it and figure out if we can get our hands on it. But the first 90 days, if it has helped someone like Nompumelelo just get through what seemed like a whirlwind environment that she came in, when you were describing that whole inherited climate, I was thinking, wow, that sounds like a whirlwind. But there's a book that she mentioned, The First 90 Days, so get your hands on it if you can. I love the statement of vulnerability is courage and vulnerability is trust. And when you have trust, you can accept others' views, and people will trust you when they know where you are coming from. From the space of reflection, she made the statement, be brave to admit when you are heading in the wrong direction. Now that is a challenging statement to any leader, I am sure. Pearl, anything you have to share from your reflections tonight? I know I just wrapped my head around so many points tonight, but I had to share that. It really spoke to us tonight. And then we'll hand over to Nompumelelo.
Awesome. I think we definitely need to book another day, Reynolds. There just isn't enough time to just draw out the richness when we talk to these kind of incredible people. And for me, thank you so much just for opening your heart and just sharing so honestly, so openly. I think it's so valuable. And I think the key nuggets for me that I got and that I heard so clearly is to value the individual, to value the person. So any leader in any leadership space is to value your colleagues, your peers, those around you, those that you serve, be it your shareholders, be it your team members, to value the individual and see beyond just sort of the roles that people play, but they come with families, and why are they here? And you can achieve so much. And the other part of that was, Mpumi, in terms of understanding that leadership means influence, incredible influence. And so the weight of that is enormous. But I must say, given these uncertain times that we're in, I'm so excited, I'm so encouraged that we have leadership of this ability, of this sort of stature, and we have leadership of this kind in our country, and there's many like you as well here. And so I think it builds our hope for the future of South Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both of you for this conversation. I really, really did enjoy it. Thank you for making me comfortable to have a conversation. My parting statement is this. All of us are born with a purpose. When we were crafted in our mother's wombs, and God breathed life in us and said, "You're ready, be on earth," He really, really embedded purpose in us. We start to live a full life when we realize the purpose, because through it all, He'll prepare us. I mean, what you said right now about, people around my life were seeing it. I wasn't, but God was preparing me for a time such as this. We need to dare to dream, and dream big, because our purpose and what we need to achieve in this life is big. We need to leave legacies in history and make a meaningful impact, not just in our own lives, but in the lives of others. A purposeful life.
Fantastic. What a powerful note to conclude your evening on. There's just so much to share. Angelique says it's both a challenging and an amazing time to lead, because the opportunity to grow and glow has never been so prevalent and necessary like right now. And then just in sharing their good nights, Palesa says, well done to you, Mpumi. And Zoraida, am I right? Zoraida Smile just said, thank you, Nompumelelo. A whole lot of hearts, a whole lot of likes. And your pastor, Nompumelelo, says that he's looking forward to catching up on tonight's session, because of course he was busy with church and we stole you out of that space tonight. But dare to dream and dream big is his message to you also, and to everybody that's connected online. Thank you for your time tonight. Thank you for just engaging in the session. To all of our viewers and listeners online, do feel free to go ahead and share and let your friends know that this was a powerful conversation. So go ahead and share and let them listen to all of the in-depth insights that was shared by Nompumelelo tonight. We wish you the greatest success as you continue to climb that corporate ladder and fulfill the great purpose with which you were born tonight, Nompumelelo. Good night, everybody, and the Lord richly, richly bless you.